Hello Capricorn, Sun, Rising, and Venus, and welcome to your reading. So Capricorn, today we're going to go over your energy as well as your person's energy. We're going to see how the both of you are currently viewing this relationship and how you guys feel about it and what actions you guys plan on taking each other's direction and are moving forward. So with all that being said, Capricorn, let's get started. How does Capricorn currently view this relationship? All right, Capricorn, we do have the Five of Pentacles, we do have the Seven of Cups, and then we also have the Devil. Ooh, okay. In regards to how you're currently viewing this relationship, it kind of looks like you find yourself connecting with somebody who brings a lot of like instability into your life as well as toxicity into your life. Your relationship with this person, man, it definitely has been affecting you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and possibly even financially for some. As much as you don't like the way that this relationship is affecting you, as far as like getting up and walking away from this individual is concerned, it seems to you, remotely impossible. It's as if you don't see the exit door. It's like the best way that I could describe what is it I'm seeing here. That's the thing, is it's not that the exit door doesn't exist, because it does exist. And I think that you can clearly see it. I just feel like what has you constantly fighting, right, to keep this dynamic between the two of you intact and afloat is because you want this to play out in your favor, right? Like in other words, you want things to essentially work out between the two of you. Hence why you keep fighting. You want the amount of time you've invested into this dynamic here between the two of you to essentially count for something. On top of that, your relationship with this person wasn't always bad. Kind of looks like once upon a time, things were good between the two of you. Things were great. And it just kind of looks like, unfortunately, things essentially changed between the two of you, and it changed, for the worse. And even though things essentially changed for the worst, between you and this person, you still decided to hold on either which way. And it's kind of stemming from a place of you, wanting this dynamic between the two of you to work. So it's not that the exit door doesn't exist, and it's not that you don't see the exit door, because I feel like you do. I just kind of feel like getting up and walking away isn't an option in your mind right now, because you're too attached to like what you want with this person, right? And what you could see yourself having with this person, which is a healthy and stable relationship. Okay. Okay, let's look at this person. How does this person currently view this relationship with Capricorn? Okay. So you guys find yourself in the exact same boat. I mean, we do have the Devil out here, so that's kind of telling me that this dynamic is affecting you, yes, in a negative way, and it's also affecting them in a negative way as well. Now, this dynamic between the two of you may not be affecting them exactly how it's affecting you, but it's still affecting them nonetheless, right? Because we do have the Devil out here, and the Devil has two people chained to him. So yeah, this relationship, it is affecting you in a negative way, and it's also affecting them in a negative way, as well. But like I said, it may not be affecting them exactly how it's affecting you. You know what I mean? But it's still affecting them nonetheless. Okay, anyways, let's focus on the Nine of Wands to the Ten of Wands. That's kind of telling me that this dynamic, between the two of you, it is, like I said, definitely affecting them in a negative way to a certain extent, just like it's affecting you in a negative way to a certain extent as well. Now, even though this dynamic between the two of you is affecting them in a negative way to a certain extent, they're still very attached to you and what they can see themselves having with you, which is a really, really good and healthy and stable relationship. And even though things may not be really good right now or stable right now between the two of you, it's something that you guys can foresee the two of you guys having with one another at some point, right? And this is what keeps the two of you holding on. This is what keeps the two of you essentially fighting. Okay, let's keep going. So the feeling is essentially mutual. You guys are basically in the exact same boat. How does Capricorn currently feel? Okay. A lot of you feel like in order to not continue to go through what you've been going through, right, with this person, it would require you to get up and walk away from this relationship, or it would require you to sever ties with this person. It would require you to turn your back on this person and your relationship with them. The problem is, right, the problem is that deep down inside, that's not something that you want to do. You know what I mean? Like if this was Burger King, have it your way, you would much rather, you know, have the type of relationship that you could foresee yourself, right, having with this person, instead of just getting up and throwing your hands up and just simply walking away from this dynamic here between the two of you. You basically feel like it's possible to have a stable and healthy relationship, you know, with this person, but unfortunately, because of things that have been going on within this dynamic here between the two of you, it causes you to feel like it's just never gonna happen, right? I feel like you guys both discourage one another. I am definitely getting that all of a sudden, that you guys discourage one another. Like let's just say, for example, like there's certain things, right, about you that this person wants you to essentially work on slash improve on. And then you decide, you know what, let me put in the work to change this down the third about myself, right? And the reason why you do it is because you want a stable and healthy relationship with this person. That's why you do it. And if you think that for 1 second, all it's going to really take is you changing X, Y, and Z about yourself in order to have what you truly want and desire with this person, you're going to turn around and do it, which I feel like you have. But then something ends up happening here between the two of you that causes you to feel like, you see, you know, anything that I do on my end to make this dynamic between the two of us work is just simply not working, which causes you to feel very, very discouraged. So maybe you're the one putting in the work, to essentially change, and your person's remaining the same, causing you to feel very discouraged, causing you to feel like, you see, it doesn't matter what I do, you know what I mean? Things are just never going to change. Things are just never going to improve, you know? And the same could be said about this person. You know, maybe you tell this person, hey, like you really need to like work on this. You really need to change this down the third about yourself. And then they start putting in the work, you know, to make this dynamic between the two of you work by changing certain, you know, things about them. And then they end up getting discouraged because you're still doing X, Y, and Z. Like I feel like this entire situation kind of requires the both of you to essentially change. I just kind of feel like it's one of those things where it's like, you start putting in the work to essentially change, and they're over here just sitting there and doing absolutely nothing to change or improve the relationship, causing you to feel discouraged. And there's times where they put in the work to essentially change, and you're not doing anything on your behalf to change or make this dynamic between the two of you essentially work. Like this entire situation requires the two of you to change at the same exact time, if that makes any sense. Because if you guys were to put in the work to change at the exact same time, the both of you won't find yourselves essentially feeling discouraged. But if you take it upon yourself to change and they stay the same, I mean, yeah, I think anybody would be discouraged. You know what I mean? I think anybody would fall into the energy that you're falling into, as far as not wanting to try, because what's the point? Like, what's the point of you changing if they're going to remain the same? Vice versa. What's the point of them changing if you're going to stay the same? You know what I mean? I think that the both of you kind of know what you guys need to essentially work on and change about yourselves, because I do believe you guys have already expressed that to one another. I just kind of feel like it's one of those things, dude, where it's like you put in the word to change and they don't do anything. They just continue to stay the same, causing you to feel like, yo, what's the point of me changing if you're going to stay the fucking same, you know? And I feel like it tends to happen the other way around too. But even though you feel like getting up and walking away from this relationship and severing ties with this person, turning your back on this person, deep down inside, that is just not something that you essentially want to do. So do I think that you actually will get up and walk away from this person, turn your back on them? I'm going to go ahead and say no, because deep down inside, it's not something that you essentially want to do. So no, I don't see you actually doing it. Now, deep down inside, if this is something that you actually wanted to do, as far as getting up and walking away from this person is concerned, then different story. You know, the likelihood of you getting up and walking away from this person is very likely to happen, but I just don't think that you actually will get up and walk away from this person. I don't think so. For right now, I'm getting that that's probably not going to happen, but how does this person currently feel? We have the 5 of Cups. We got the 7 of Pentacles. And then we also have the Star out here. You know, it's interesting because I feel like you guys take turns doing this in this relationship. When you reach this point of, I can't take it anymore, I feel like this person has a tendency of coming in and encouraging you to keep fighting, to keep fighting, to not give up. You know what I mean? And I feel like they typically end up getting their way with you time and time again. Every time you fall into this energy of, I just don't want to do this anymore, they're really, really good at convincing you into just keep fighting, right? But we could say the same the other way around. There's times where I'm sure this person, is at this point where they're just like, I can't take it anymore. And then you come in, and encourage this person to not give up, on you in this dynamic that the two of you share with one another. And you typically end up getting your way with them as well. I think it's safe to say neither one of you want to be without one another. I think it's safe to say that you don't want to lose them and they don't want to lose you. I think it's safe to say that. But I also think it's safe to say that this dynamic is affecting the two of you in a negative way to a certain extent, and you guys are just kind of getting sick and tired of it. You know what I mean? You guys are just getting sick and tired of it. But yeah, when it comes down to how this person feels, I mean, you could fall into this energy of, I just can't take it anymore. I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? Well, I think that this person's going to put up a fight. I think that this person's going to do everything in their power to continue to keep you in their life because they don't want to essentially lose you. And do I think that, this entire situation is going to end up playing out in their favor as far as like, them not losing you in the end is concerned? Yeah, I think that all of this will essentially play out in this person's favor. But what actions will Capricorn take towards this person or moving forward? We have the Three of Pentacles. We have the Emperor. Yep. And then we also have the Death card. Okay, so you're showing up as an Emperor, so let's talk about it. And I feel like you're dealing with an Empress. For some of you, you might have a family with this person, or you guys may have had like conversations about starting a family with one another. Either which way though, you're showing up as an Emperor, and I'm pretty sure you're dealing with an Empress. More than likely you are. Here's the thing when it comes down to the both of you. Let's just focus on you really quickly here, but the feeling is essentially mutual because I do believe you're dealing with an Empress. So when it comes down to an Emperor / Empress, these are the type of people that when they see something that they want, they're very determined to get it. They're very freaking determined to get it. In this case, right, you're very determined to have a healthy and stable relationship with this person. You're very determined to essentially make that happen. And you're going to be that type of person that's not going to freaking stop, right, until you get what you want in the end, or until you get what it is that you want out of them in this dynamic that the two of you share with one another, which is a healthy and stable relationship. And you're not going to stop until you get it. That's just the type of person that you are. When you see something that you want, you're not going to stop until you get it. That's just how you are as an individual, and that's how they are as an individual too. So even though you may have 99 reasons as to why you should get up and walk away and just throw your hands up and just simply give up, it's not in your nature to give up on the things that you truly want. You're just not that type of person. You know what I mean? Just like they're not that type of person. It's very easy for other people to just give up on the things that they essentially want and just simply throw their hands up and just give up. It is remotely impossible for you to personally do that because you are an Emperor. You don't give up on the things that you essentially want in this life. You're not going to stop until you get what you want. And that's just how you are as an individual. So towards the end, what I do see essentially happening is the two of you coming back together and trying to make this dynamic between the two of you essentially work. I feel like you're trying to create change in this dynamic here between you and this person. I am definitely getting that. So do I see you getting up and walking away from this person? No, I don't see you getting up and walking away from this person for the reasons why I already basically mentioned. Okay. Another thing too, what also kind of keeps the two of you fighting to keep this dynamic between the two of you intact and afloat, believe it or not, has a lot to do with the two of you essentially thinking, believing, as well as feeling like you guys are never going to find anyone better than one another, okay? Despite the fact that this person might dry hump your last nerve from sun up to sundown, there's a lot of things that you love about this person. There's a lot of things that you appreciate about this person. There's a lot of things that you value when it comes down to this person and your relationship with them. A lot of you don't really think and believe you're going to find someone better than them, despite the fact that, yes, they do dry hump your last nerve from sun up to sundown. When you really think about your relationship and what you truly have by your side, you don't necessarily feel you're going to find anyone better than them. That is just what you think and believe. Same applies for this person, which causes the two of you to have like this massive, hold, I would say, on one another, and this is what also keeps the two of you constantly fighting to keep one another in each other's lives. Because at the end of the day, all of the things that you cherish about this person, love about this person, value about this person, you don't really deep down inside want somebody else to experience, let alone have. But it goes both ways. You see what I mean? Like, even though they dry hump your last nerve, you can see past all of that. You know what I mean? And you can see the good when it comes down to this person. So do you really, really want somebody else experiencing that and having that? No, you absolutely do not. You don't. Same applies the other way, around. What actions? Okay. So we have the Knight of Wands, we got the Judgment card, and then we also have the Six of Swords out here. Okay. I do see this person being able to change your mind, because you go from that's it, I'm done, I'm leaving, to you know what, I'm just gonna stay. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna stay, and I'm just gonna try to make this work, and fingers crossed things will essentially change and get better. So is this entire situation playing out in their favor? Yes. I do see the two of you moving past whatever the heck happened here with the Judgment card to the Six of Swords. I do see you guys moving past it. And choosing to just kind of leave it in the past. And I do see the two of you healing things here with one another. So in other words, things will essentially go back to normal. What advice can you give me for this spread for Capricorn, Sun, Rising, and Venus? Okay. We have the Nine of Swords. We have the Hermit. We also have the King of Wands. And then we also, that's the problem though. That's the problem though. That's the problem. It's like, how do I explain this? I think that you guys both know exactly what to do to improve things between the two of you. I just kind of feel like you guys are not doing it, but I feel like there's a reason behind it all, which is something that I already basically kind of like went over with you. When you put in the work to essentially change in hopes that it'll improve things between the two of you, when you look over your shoulder, you still see this individual doing things that you don't necessarily like, doing things that essentially bother you, doing things that you don't want to continue to tolerate and or deal with. And what happens is that causes you to fall into this mindset of, what the hell is the point of me changing if this individual is going to stay the same? What the fuck is the point? You know what I mean? And I feel like they tend to experience that with you as well. I think that you guys both know exactly what you guys need to do to make this dynamic between the two of you work. I just kind of feel like you guys discourage each other along the way. And this is what causes the two of you to remain, in this vicious cycle with one another. What I'm really curious about, which I think that you should definitely ask this person, because that didn't come out whatsoever now that I think about it. I'm very curious to know what causes this person to remain the same while you're putting in the work to essentially change. Because it's not like they don't see that you're putting in the work to essentially change, because they do. You know what I mean? I wonder what causes this person to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm not going to put in the work to change. Screw that. Like, I wonder what causes them to fall into that mindset. And I wonder what causes you to actually fall into that mindset, because I'm getting it goes both ways. There's times where they put in the work to essentially change and you sit there and you stay the same. Something causes you to fall into the mindset of, I'm not going to put in any work to change. Screw that. I'm not doing that. Like, I wonder what causes the both of you to fall into that mindset. I wonder what causes you guys to fall into that mindset, which wasn't revealed whatsoever. All I do know is that when you put in the word to change, they stay the same. When they put in the word to essentially change, you stay the same. But why? Like, what's the reason behind that? I think that you should really ask this person that. I think that they should honestly ask you, because I feel like that is like the actual root of the problem here, is what causes the both of you to sit there and say to yourselves, you know what? No, I'm not going to put in the word to change. Screw that. Like, what really causes you guys to fall into that mindset, especially when you look over your shoulder and you see your significant other putting in the word to change? What causes you guys to fall into that mindset of, I'm not going to put in the word to change. Screw them, screw that. Because I feel like that's the problem. Like, I feel like once you guys are able to like figure out like what causes you guys to fall into that mindset of, screw that, I'm not going to put in the word to change, even though this person over here is putting in the word to change, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, because the only thing that I can honestly think of The only thing that I could essentially think of that could potentially cause the two of you to fall into this mindset is that you guys, maybe, just maybe, right? What causes you to fall into this mindset of, I'm not going to put in the word to change. Like, even though they're putting in the word to change, I'm not going to put in the word to change. It could be that you don't necessarily think that there's anything that you need to honestly work on or change about yourself. Maybe, maybe, maybe. But see, and maybe that's like the thing for the both of you. But even if you truly think and believe that there's nothing that you need to essentially work on or change about yourself, and that's what causes you to fall into this mentality, you also have to kind of take into consideration that even though you may think there's nothing that you need to work on or change about yourself, there's certain things that you do within this dynamic that the two of you share with one another that they personally don't like, that they personally don't want to deal with. You see what I mean? Just like we could say the same the other way around, right? It's like, even though they may think that there's certain things that they don't really need to work on or change about themselves, there's certain things that this person does that you don't want to continue to tolerate, that you don't want to continue to essentially deal with. So they could sit here and think, there's something I need to work on, there's something I need to essentially change. But I think that you wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because there's certain things about them that essentially rub you the wrong way that you don't necessarily like. So therefore, yeah, there are things that they need to essentially work on and change about themselves. Because you don't want to continue to deal with X, Y, and Z, just like they don't want to continue to deal with X, Y, and Z. So maybe that's what it is, that you guys kind of have like this mindset of like, nah, like there's something I need to change about myself. It's them. Like, they need to work on this. They need to work on that. But the same could be said vice versa. But regardless if that is the case or not, like, there's still certain things that they essentially do within this dynamic that you don't really want to continue to deal with. You don't want to continue to deal with. You don't want to continue to essentially go through and or tolerate. And these are things that you would want them to essentially work on because of the way that it's affecting you. Vice versa. You may think that there's nothing that you need to work on, but there's certain things that you do that bother them, that affect them, that they feel like you need to really, really work on. You see what I mean? So it's just the epitome of doing what y'all got to do to make one another happy, because I feel like that's the key to having a healthy and stable relationship, is compromising and sacrificing and doing what you guys could possibly do on your end, right? To try to make one another happy. That's the key, I would say, towards having a very healthy and stable relationship. But I get it, it's like, if they're not going to go out their way to make you happy, why should you, and vice versa, but I feel like I would love to know what really causes you guys to fall into that mindset of, I'm not going to change, screw that. You know what I mean? It could just be what I mentioned, or it could be something else, but I think that that's, a question worth asking, you know what I mean? Just to gain a better understanding of why you guys continue to find yourselves caught up in this vicious cycle with one another, because it looks like you don't like it, and it looks like they don't like it either. But I think that you guys both know, like, what you guys have to do to make this work. I just kind of feel like you guys have 99 reasons as to why you guys shouldn't. Like, you guys hold the answers when it comes down to making this dynamic between the two of you work. I just kind of feel like something is discouraging you guys from doing what you guys have to do to make that happen. And I think that's what you need to really kind of get down to the bottom of. What is it that causes this person to feel like they shouldn't change? Is it because they think that there's nothing that they need to change about themselves? You know what I mean? Is it that? Or is it something else? You know what I mean? Or is it that for you? Or is it something else? But I think that once you guys are able to discover that, you know what I mean? I think that'll help the two of you gain like a better understanding of why you guys find yourselves caught up in this vicious cycle with one another, and how to break free from this vicious cycle, because it's a vicious cycle that neither one of you want to continue to even be a part of anymore. But something's causing the two of you to remain there. And I think that that's a question, like I said, worth asking to this person. Like, what is it that causes them to feel like they shouldn't put in the work to change? What is it exactly? And I think that's a question that they should definitely ask you as well, because it goes both ways. But yeah, that's what I have for you. Hopefully the reading helped. Hopefully it resonated. And I will see you guys in your next reading.